This YCN segment is brought to you by Bubba's Bar and Grill on Lake Sunapee in Newberry Harbor.
Welcome in, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, and this week joining me again is Rob Taylor, the Executive Director of the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. Rob, thanks for coming back.
Great to be here as always.
The big Red Sox fan is in the house, and Celtics fan. We'll get to all that. Off-season, doesn't matter. The Celtics are in the news. Obviously, the draft is Thursday night. Trades may be happening. Who knows where we stand on that, but we'll start with the team that's in season, the Boston Red Sox, dropping a tough one last night against the Twins. 5-3 so far on this current road trip. Good start, but they got to make sure they win a couple games here in Minnesota before the end.
Yeah, we're hoping the price is right tonight.
Yes.
He's certainly been their stud this season. He's really the most clutch pitcher they've got.
Yes.
Hopefully he can kind of turn the tide a little bit. I thought Sale was pitching pretty decent last night, but they just didn't have it in the bats last night.
So. Well, yeah, I mean, Sale had pitched, I think he was no-hit through 4 1/3 innings and given up the little hit that Devers couldn't field. But you're right, the bats, and that's kind of been the issue on this road trip, dropping a couple games to Seattle by 1 run, and then obviously last night with the small lead, and then Joe Kelly couldn't really handle it, Robbie Scott coming in. But overall, the starting pitching has done a great job. You mentioned two of them, Chris Sale and David Price, right there.
And Porcello, they really, the ERA through June here, I guess 2.9. I guess, basically I've heard it described, Yankees have the bullpen pitching,
yes,
and the Sox have the starting pitching. So they're both sort of looking for the opposite of each other in this free agency trade market right now. So I'm sure that Dombrowski's going to be looking to make a big splash with a reliever. I think that's where we're going to be going in terms of acquisitions.
Yeah, and as the trading chatter begins to heat up, should we say here, as we get into summer and the dog days of summer will be coming up and the trade deadline, that looks to be the biggest piece that they're going to add. It looks like their starting rotation is set. The offense definitely has some holes in it, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But that bullpen, you're right. The Red Sox clearly have a need, and they're trying different guys. Like I said, they brought Robbie Scott up. He's in there. Obviously, Joe Kelly, Matt Barnes. They have the horses, but you're right. They're just not as consistent as the Yankees appear to be.
Yeah, I've heard it described as good, not great in terms of our bullpen. So, if we want to be there and beat the Yankees, I think at the end of the season, it's going to have to be great. And I think that's the same way the Yankees are coming at their starting rotation. I'm almost certain that they're going to be going after some big talent to try to add to their starting rotation, just as we'll be doing it for our relief pitching. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks here as we close in on the deadlines. So,
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. The offense, another. Not a problem, but like I said, sometimes it goes dormant. 3 players I'll give you, and you can tell me where you think they go. Rafael Devers, obviously a young talent at third base. Some people have said he's untouchable. They don't need to trade him. Jackie Bradley Jr. continues to struggle offensively, but a great throw last night in the outfield, a great player defensively. And then second base, Eduardo Nunez. Those 3 players, are those guys starters? Are they here to stay, or could there be a shakeup?
Well, let me start with JBJ. I'm going to say he is a guy that they need to sit for a little while. He needs a little break. Obviously, he's a defensive superstar. Did you see the throw from the deep part of the outfield last night? Said his throw velocity was near 103 miles an hour from the outfield, and he gunned down the runner.
Yep.
It was a great play. Obviously, he's a defensive superstar, but offensively, he's sputtering. Lacks consistency, has not really been performing. I think he's hitting sub 180.
Yeah, he's down there.
So my recommendation there would be to throw Brock Holton, who's hitting somewhere in the vicinity of 300, and obviously is a really solid offensive power for us. And maybe you could throw JBJ in late innings to be a defensive stop.
Yep.
My guess is that's what they'll do. They haven't shown an appetite or a willingness to do that yet.
No.
So I'm not sure there. Now, I've heard Devers is some trade bait. They're looking at a kid for relief pitching from San Diego. Is it Bard or what's his last name? But they want him, and the reports are that San Diego would certainly deal him in exchange for
for Devers,
third baseman. So
and there's a lot of talk: is Devers too much to give up in a trade just because he is young? They have control over him, and as a young player, so that might be a little too much to give up. And it'll certainly be interesting to keep an eye on things because we know the Red Sox, when they get into that mode of trading and they need a piece, they're not afraid to make a big trade. We've seen it all the way back in 2004 when they gave up Nomar Garciaparra in that season when they won the World Series. I mean, that was a huge trade, especially for how loved he was with the fans. And then all of a sudden they make some small moves and before
everything
you know it,
fell into place.
Exactly. So who knows what can happen? They're right there, half a step behind the Yankees and the Astros, but they still are one of the top teams in baseball. A lot of summer to play, and we'll see what happens on the trade deadline. When we come back, we'll talk about another potential trade. Team off season right now, Celtics. Could they be making a move for a big-time player? You're watching YCN Sports Talk.